Okay. Do you want to just work off from my phone, or how would you like to do that? Sure. I'll do that. I'll just put you on speakerphone, and then we'll go from there. Okay. All right. Okay. Are you there, Al?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, we're set up and ready.
Okay. Good enough. Okay. I guess I'll call the meeting to order. It's Thursday, November 5th. And this is the Commissioners' Working Meeting, and today we're discussing the RFQ solicitation for the silos management area. And with us is Al Christofferson on the phone, and Commissioner Obert is with us as well, and Commissioner Delger. I guess we'll start out with Laura, the proposal that you typed up and then sent to Great West Engineering, and some of their comments.
Yeah. Before we start that, can I ask that we just talk a little bit about foundation before moving into the details?
Sure.
And I'm glad that we have Al. Al, can you hear me okay?
Hear you fine.
Okay, good. There was a proposal, or at least it was thrown out on the table on Monday, that the county should consider severing our agreement with BOR, no longer being involved at all with the Silos Recreation Area. I wanted to talk about some of the benefits that we as a county, and by extension the citizens, have gained through the years by our relationship with BOR. We are a unique relationship. Broadwater County, is a managing partner of the Silos Recreation Area with BOR. As I understand it, we are the only one in the state, and there are a handful, less than a handful across the country. Every single one of them seems to be working very well, including ours. So Al brought to us last year a report from FWP that the lake generates approximately $14 million per year for the communities that surround the lake. That is the Silos Certified Designated Place, CDP, but that also extends to Townsend and all the other communities within Broadwater County. One huge example, but it's certainly not the only example, is Townsend Marine. Townsend Marine supports a number of families through the business. They also sell the most Lund boats of any Lund dealership this side of the Mississippi River. That's huge for our local economy. If we were to sever our relationship with BOR, what would happen to the master plan that we've all put so much time, money, and energy into? The other thing that's worth mentioning is the trust board. How would that be affected? How would there be county oversight of the millions of dollars that they have specifically for work at the Silos Recreation Area, and by extension the rest of the county? And then finally, I want to make sure that we are all aware that the docks are not included with the BOR. So the management of the docks, the pulling and pushing of the docks with weather, with ice, the rental of the docks, the management of the spaces of the docks, that still remains with Broadwater County. Those docks belong to Broadwater County. So even if we severed our agreement or relationship with BOR, we still have a responsibility to manage, rent, maintain those docks somehow. So I wanted to make sure that was a part of the understanding before moving forward. The other thing that I think is very important, excuse me, Daryl, you sent us some contracts from BOR today, which is great. But I think it's important that we understand what the difference is between a concessionaire and a manager. We do not have a concessionaire at Silos. We do not have a concessionaire agreement. We have a manager, and that manager is a contract under Broadwater County, and it is with Broadwater County as we are a managing partner of the Silos Recreation Area. The basic difference between a concessionaire and manager is a concessionaire has an ownership benefit. The BOR contracts that you sent out this morning, Daryl, those are for 20 years. And the reason for that is, as a concessionaire, there's an expectation that there will be improvements made to the facility on their own, but they will reap the financial benefits over a long period of time for whatever that investment is. At Goose Bay, they had all the different trailers that they rented out on an annual basis or that were owned by the trailer owners. There's similar situations at Marina, Kim's Marina and Yacht Basin. So this is what we're talking about is a manager agreement, not a concessionaire agreement. If we want to work with BOR to change that to a concessionaire agreement, we've got a lot of homework to do to get to that point. So for today, I think it's important that we remember that what we have is management, and if we want to keep management, then we move forward as a management agreement. So any other thoughts or any other foundation that we need to discuss before we get into the RFQ or RFP?
I don't have anything.
I don't have anything, no.
Okay. As you know, and as I sent out, and Al, I'll send this to you as well, we put together a draft RFQ and RFP, request for proposals and request for qualifications. And this was sent to Great West Engineering so that they could give it a look-see and provide some input as far as things that were missing, verbiage changes, items that we hadn't thought about, and they returned it that same day, which is magnificent. So, Daryl, how do you want me to proceed? Do you want me to just go paragraph by paragraph?
Yeah.
What would you like?
Yeah, let's do that, and we'll go from there.
Okay.
Yep.
Al, for your benefit, I'll just read it. This is very short. The very first section, Broadwater County is soliciting requests for qualifications and requests for proposals for management services for the Silos Recreation Area. Broadwater County is a managing partner with the Department of the Interior Bureau of Reclamation for the development, management, operations, and maintenance of the Silos Recreation Area, SRA, at Canyon Ferry Reservoir. This sentence was added by Great West Engineering. The county intends to select a single managing partner for the SRA for a term of X years. So this won't be a managing partner, this will be our manager. That's a simple change to it. But how many years do we want to consider? We have a contract with BOR that expires in 2023. It is my sincere hope that the county would continue as a managing partner, even though that contract needs some dire work to it. But instead of severing the agreement, instead of severing the relationship, it's my hope that it will be realized how much benefit there's been to the citizens. So, what are we looking at? 1 year, 2, 10, what do you think?
I would, this is Mike, I would suggest that, if we're gonna continue to look at the BOR contract and it may be, that commission may step away from it, I would suggest that we have a, 2-year term with a 5-year option.
So,
Yeah, I'm good with that. What do you guys think?
So you're thinking the language would be, it'd be a 2-year term, and then at the end of that, we could extend it up to 5 years? Is that what you're?
We could extend it for 5 years at that, so essentially it would be a 7-year contract.
Yeah, or would you extend it annually up to 5 years?
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And that way we have if we give the BOR notice that we are possibly getting out of that contract, that would give us the concessionaire for the 2 years that we need to cover. And then after that would be future commission's decisions.
Why would you be looking to sever our relationship with BOR?
Well, because that when we get done with a year at the Silos Recreation, by the time we get done paying the power bill and all the maintenance, we're in the hole. That's a load that falls on the Broadwater County taxpayers. I don't go to the lake. I hate the lake, and if I don't know why I have to pay that bill.
You don't. If you look at the Silos Fund, and that's something we can address in this contract, but if you look at that Silos Fund, the deficit is because we never paid the docks in full. The trust board did not pay the docks in full. It's not because of the electricity. That's the 10% that JSJ pays the county. That's supposed to be paying for all that. If it's not enough, we need to address that, and we can do that with this RFP. But the county, I think it's very important that we as a commission, and by extension the citizens, understand that the county, the citizens are not paying that. There's a deficit because an investment made years ago was not paid for then, and we've carried that from year to year to year. But it is not the electricity, it is not the other services that are being that are taking us into the deficit. And we can do a full analyzation of that fund, and that will bear that out.
Well, I disagree with that because we continue to pay the power bill. That power bill comes to about $6,000 a year. Last year we made $7,200 or something off of our 10%, and we still had all the repairs that we had to pay for.
Yeah.
I think the documents we have in the manila envelope on our conference table show that JSJ paid all those bills. But, okay, so we've got a problem. And the problem is we've got a power bill of approximately $6,000 a year. And so we need to address how we are going to address that. So that's something we can put in the problem box and address through the RFQ and RFP, as well as ongoing major repairs. At what point do we pay for those out of that Silos Fund, and at what point does the manager pay for it? So those are two questions that we need to put into this so that we have those answered by these RFPs. Does that make sense?
That makes sense, but the problem is that we're doing so much maintenance. Sharon pays those bills, but then she submits a claim for them.
But you guys have been turning those down, so she's been paying them. She can submit a claim. Absolutely, anybody can. It's up to the commission to go through every single claim. We've been through this 100 times. It's up to the commission to go through every single claim and determine, is this an appropriate expenditure for the citizens? And there's a file full of denied claims where Sharon has ended up paying those. So, again, through this RFP, let's go ahead and target what the problems are and make sure that we have some proposals for solutions. One is, at what point does the manager pay for maintenance, and at what point is it up to the Silos Fund to pay for maintenance? Neither of which is from county taxpayers, because the Silos Fund is funded by recreators of the silos. And that's how it was set up. So we need to make sure that when the work we do, that we maintain that requirement.
Okay, and you know, I agree with Mike. We just don't seem to be making headway with that, but we do need to address that in the RFP process and also in the contract. The other portion of that is we still have the outstanding debt that is there from the docks that needs to be addressed. And I guess one of the questions I have is, are we going to address that in our contract to to pay that down, or how are we going to do that? So I guess that's a discussion for another time. I just want everybody to be thinking about that.
It probably shouldn't be in the contract because we're talking about a new contract. So the idea is with a new contract that you start at zero. So we're going to have to figure out how we pay the dock remainder. Do we work with the trust board or do we pay it out of PILT? But the thing is it should have been paid years ago. Unfortunately, we were not in a situation to deal with that because of animosity towards the silos. Again, the idea of some people hate the lake. We get that. But we can't look at managing an asset for this community based on a personal opinion from what happened in 1956. We've got to look at that lake as the asset it is for the people who have come here because of it and the benefit it brings to our community as a whole. And that's why I think the last thing we should be doing is wiping our hands of it and saying we don't like it, so we're not going to have anything to do with it. Does that serve our citizens? The answer is no.
Yeah.
So my hope is we can target what the problems are and we can put our eyes on solutions through this process.
Yeah, that's fine. I guess that we'll address that as we go along. But what if we get to the situation where we know how much it costs to operate the silos now, pretty much on an annual basis. We have to make sure that our contract addresses that we are receiving enough revenue to pay our bills, and we haven't done that in the past.
And that's why we're gathered here today.
Okay. All right.
So this is Al. Can I ask a question here?
Yeah, go ahead.
So my understanding is that the difference between, I think as Lori, you put it out, a manager and a concessionaire, is a concessionaire is going to operate that place. There is no connection between the concessionaire and the county.
I need to see back.
Okay, we clear?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. The concessionaire, under a concessionaire operation, that concessionaire basically is responsible for everything that contract lays out. They're the manager. There is no avenue of the governing entity, whether it's the county or the BOR, to have any leverage on the concessionaire other than the contract. However, the concessionaire has no leverage against the governing entity except for their offer, whatever they put in their proposal to pay, in this case, the county or the BOR. So if they choose to pay 3%, 5%, that's their proposal. That 3% is not contingent upon claims coming in or anything else. That's what they pay. And under the manager, as I understand it, the manager is basically your contractor out there to manage for you. Therefore, you have to be on top of everything that's going on out there. And like you said, dealing with claims, whether you approve claims or not. How are they governed? Who has responsible oversight for the daily goings on that requires or opens the door for claims? And how does then a couple things, not only the dock repayment issue, and I know that's an issue with the trust board, but the now with the paying of launch fees down there, that's going to be another thing that's got to be part of that picture. I know the trust board is interested in how that goes. So I just trying to help understand the connections between a concessionaire and what they do and what they pay, and what that requires, and I think in one case it requires that all of these things that we're talking about, all these things about who fixes a fire ring if it gets broken, who fixes a table, how many of those are like annual expectations, or do they just not expect it and then all of a sudden there's a big bill for a whole bunch of table replacements or a whole bunch of fire rings? Talking to the host down there this year, about fire rings being actually stolen. Who covers those? If it's the county's manager, then between the county and the manager, you're going to figure out if it's a concessionaire. In all likelihood, that falls on the concessionaire, and there's no argument about it. So I think that as you talk about what goes on into an RFP or that proposal, those things need to be addressed, and that's a long issue. And if I know that the BOR offered to help put together an RFP and the kinds of listings of materials that ought to be thought about. So I don't know if you pursued that with those guys at all or not, but I would certainly encourage you to work with them on what they look at as a list, because it doesn't make any difference whether you're going to manage it or concessionaire it. The list still has to be there, because you guys and the operator, whoever that is, has to have a clear understanding and agreement about what is in and what is out, and what they cover and what they don't cover, and what you cover and what you don't cover, and the expectations of what that means. What's annual maintenance? What's replacement? What's long-term maintenance? Those kind of things you have to have in there, and they have to be clearly identified, because either way, if you don't have it in there either way, then you got a problem. And without that, whoever in the county has the responsibility for working almost on a daily basis with your manager or your concessionaire, they have to have a clear understanding of how that is, so that you don't get into these issues of, well, who pays for the light bill out there, and is that a claim or not? It should be just very clearly that either it's in or it's out. And if it's out, then the county has to understand how they're going to try and pay for it. If it's in, then whoever's writing the proposal looks at it and says, okay, we got to cover the light bills down here. And I looked it up, and it's so much a year. Boom, it's in their proposal. Without it, then you're in the situation you've been in as to whether or not it's approved, it's not approved, who submits it, how much is it, and all that kind of stuff. So I just lay that out there. This is not, laying out an RFP is not a fast moving deal. You've got to make sure that you address all the detail in that, so that they can properly address those things that are significantly important to you as the county in putting this thing together. And again, if I know Dan Gallagher had offered to help work on that, and so I would encourage you to either get him or your engineering firm to look at that kind of stuff, because I've looked at the BOR stuff, and it's, I mean, yes, they're a big entity and all that, but there's a lot of stuff in here that lays out details that if you're going to get into these things, at this point, what you need to make sure that you got this stuff first. So, thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you, Al.
Thanks, Al.
So I have a question for Al. Al, we did have the engineering firm look at the RFP, RFQ. What we had talked about is, and with them as well, is keeping the request for proposal fairly open so that we could get in more information from the people submitting in, and then we would work on the contract in parallel, like we're going to start today. And then when we did select a manager, we would actually negotiate their input with the final details in the contract. Do you see an issue with keeping something, it's certainly got everything mentioned as far as fire rings, tables, yada, yada, yada. But we didn't want to solidify it so much that there's no room for creativity or information coming from them. Do you understand what I'm saying? And do you understand my question?
Yeah, I think so. Here's my take on this coming from, this is just my background, is that the more you put in there and ask them to address, the more you have to negotiate with. Because you don't have to accept whatever they put in their proposal is it. That's not necessarily what's going to go in the contract. You get proposals, and you're going to get several of them. You will have the ability to look across those and then come back, and you can ask them to clarify issues or topics, or maybe some more things that came up, some more additional questions, some finer detail maybe. Before you ever get to actually writing the contract with them. I mean, this is all RFP stuff. Once you get kind of that negotiation with them, you call it, I think the term is a last and final proposal. So you can go back to any of them and ask questions to clarify, what about this, what about that? And that's what I would use your consultants for, to do all that stuff, because good heavens, you guys do not have the personal time to go through a big detailed RFP. It takes a lot of time. And so I just look at it and say, here's an opportunity. You guys have hired a consultant. Sit down with them, make sure they understand the detail of some of the issues out there, and that you get those things addressed in that RFP. If the RFP comes in the packages and you look at it, somebody puts something in, somebody else, and this is what you'll see. Somebody will have something in, proposes a really good way to approach one item, but maybe not another. You got to evaluate all those. You can go back and ask all those RFP people to clarify, to readdress those things, and make their final proposals back to you, so you get all that detail addressed that you want. Then once you got that, then you sit down and you pick your what you like, and then you formulate that into a contract. But I think your negotiation is within the RFP proposal process, not in the contracting part.
That's perfect, Al. I think that was my understanding going into this. I can't speak for Mike or Daryl. Do you guys have any further questions on how this process should lay out in front of us?
Well, I guess maybe here's a question I would like to ask is, do we need to separate the RFQ from the RFP? And the reason I ask that question is, the RFQ is, we're just asking for people to find out if they're qualified first, and then we can weed it out from there and separate the people that are not qualified from the ones that are, and then send them and get them involved in the RFP process. Does that make sense?
Daryl, I can answer that if you want now. You can too if you want, but I did ask that question. Mm-hmm. And the answer was we would get better information by combining it together because the two are so closely related. If you go out and a lot of times with engineering firms, you go out for an RFQ first on a particular project, and say it's a flooding project. You want engineering firms with water-specific expertise. Because of the specific expertise of your project, you get your qualified individuals first, and then you do an RFP, a request for proposals. Mm-hmm. With this, it's not quite as scientific as fixing a flooding problem. This is The request for qualifications is closely related to the request for proposal. So the request for qualifications portion of this, and we'll get the specifics in a minute, but it's management, personnel, grant writing, experience, consensus building, problem solving, communication skills. And then you get into the RFP, and that's more specific to the SRA. Customer service, garbage collection, dock maintenance, parking lot maintenance, tables, fire pit rings, bathrooms, gazebos, etc. And there's a lot more. I won't go through everything yet because we're going to get to that. But the two are so closely related. What we want is to analyze the two together, and then we can divide out our rubric for each. That was the feedback I got.
This is Mike. I would support separating the RFQ, the request for qualifications, and the RFP, because I would rather get a large number of people to reply to our request for qualifications, and we could handle it very much like we did the on-call engineer. We have a committee. We review all the requests for qualifications. Say we pick 3 to probably 5 finalists, and then we send them a request for a proposal. If you're going to have a bunch of people apply for this, I think we're going to get a bunch of stuff that's hastily thrown together, both on our end and the applicant's end. I think that it would just be better to request for qualifications so we know who and what we're dealing with. We can review those, and then we can go back to those 4 or 5 applicants and do a request for proposals, and then we do an in-person interview with those people. And another reason is if we can send out the RFQ, then that gives us some time to get the contract more aligned to what we want it to be, have it reviewed, and then we can, when we send out the RFP, we can send out a draft of that contract so that they know exactly what we're looking at to go after their RFP.
I like that idea, Mike. I think if I'm just talking about, if I was interested in this and I was submitting a proposal, I would definitely want to know ahead of time of what the contract would be specifying so that I could tailor my proposal to the contract.
So the person on this call with the most experience just said that the contract is going to be a negotiated document after receiving the request for proposals. So I think we need to keep in mind what Al has said. I think we're doing a disservice because we are not the experts on what somebody else could provide. What we want is to negotiate a contract between them and the county for the best document and most workable document possible. Having a draft is fine.
Right.
But let's just keep in mind that if we're going to be collaborative, then we want their input in that contract. We don't just hand it to them and say, this is what you're signing on to, because that's not going to serve the citizens as well as a collaborative effort.
And I think that's why you would label that contract as a draft, because that's the starting point that would outline what the county wants or expects, and then we negotiate that contract with their proposal. Yep. I mean, if you hire me to build a house, I'll say, yeah, I'll build you a house. You don't have any plans, give me a price. So that doesn't work, because to me that's a waste of time. Because I don't know how much the budget is, and I don't even know what the house looks like, but you want me to give you a bid. And that's not how this works.
Mike, that's not what we're talking about here. I don't know if anyone's read the request for qualifications or proposal yet. That is not what's being proposed. It is not just a blank, hey, you tell us what you want to do. There are specifications per Great West Engineering. We need to put on a point structure for a analysis. But if you guys want to just do a request for qualifications at this point, that's absolutely fine. We can go ahead and tear this down and just do requests for qualifications. So how do you want to go ahead and continue through this document so we can get on to the contract? Or how do you want to just keep an open mind and go through this and see where we're at and then determine if we just want to do one piece of it?
I'm okay with that.
Al, do you have any input as to where we're kind of headed at this point?
No, I think the fact that you're putting it all on the table and discussing it all is good. I think, you've already kind of done this process with your engineering firms. And yeah, there's a lot more project-specific information we have. We already know a lot of this. But asking for qualifications, I think, is fine.
Okay, so the next piece that the engineers proposed is a limit on pages. They said a limit of 10 pages, single-sided. That way we don't get a novel, and that way people have an expectation that we're looking for more than 2 paragraphs. I'm fine with 10 pages. You guys have any change to that? And I guess if we do go to just an RFQ, that we'd want to readdress that. Any thoughts?
I would be okay with that 10-page limit for the RFQ, but I think that if some people would have a more detailed plan of what they would actually want to do there in their request for proposals, that they could probably exceed that. I mean, I don't need to see a 50, 60-page document, but I think that 10 single-sided pages for the way that they're going to manage that concession and what they're going to do with it, I think may be limited. I would be in favor of maybe running the RFP up to 15 pages.
Okay, and with that in mind, our contract is 7. So in my opinion, 10 is plenty. If you can't share your plan in 10 pages, you're going to lose all of the committee. And how much time do we have?
Yep.
But
I think sticking with 10.
if you can do 15,
Yeah, 10, sticking with 15, I think, is good. And then when we get to the RFP process and we do the actual interviews with everybody, that's where we can dig a little bit deeper into what they have in mind.
Okay. The next one is liability insurance, and this was what I did is I just took the $1 million that's currently in our contract, but I think an input from Al and your group was that should be reevaluated annually. I think that's a really good idea, and we could put just a dash to be reevaluated annually, or you had much better language, Al, and we could incorporate that in. You guys good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so RFQ then. There's 5 points to the RFQ. I suggest one more that I thought of this morning. So number 1 would be campground facility management.
Yep.
I would want a full resume of what kind of campground facility management somebody has.
Okay. I wrote down a similar one, Laura, and I just called it recreation management. So, yeah, campground, recreation management, I think anything like that would be fine.
Okay, I suggest we combine the two, campground and recreation facility management.
Okay, perfect.
So do you want to campground or recreation management associated with water shorelines or anything? Otherwise, you might get just city park type stuff.
That's a great idea because of the docks.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think with a focus on water facilities and docks, dock management.
Well, I just think that the whole facility out there is so tied to the shoreline and water use, whether it be boating, swimming, all that stuff, that you may not get from somebody that's just managing a campground isolated from water.
Okay, I agree.
Okay, good. So that's number one. Number two, personnel and staff management experience and philosophy. This was added by the engineers.
Okay.
Okay, number three, grant writing experience and success in obtaining grants. Anyone can write a grant. Have you gotten the grants you've applied for? I think that was a good addition by Great West.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Probably not just writing for and getting, but then administering.
Oh, there you go.
And reporting.
That's the biggest part of grant writing stuff anymore is the reporting that has to go with it. So I don't think you want to miss that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay, number four, experience building consensus and partnerships. Number five, reporting experience. This goes to grants, but also strong written and oral communication skills.
Yep.
Actually, I'm sorry. That reporting experience wouldn't necessarily just be the grants, so it should stay. That would also be financial reporting, incident reporting.
You've already got a list of about 9 or 10 or 12 reports that are supposed to be done annually at the end of seasons. It's that kind of experience, I think, that you want to look at. In other words, people have contracts and requirements. Are they fulfilling those from the reporting side?
Absolutely, and we could pull out a list from the contract for all the different reports that are required. And then the last one, problem-solving skills.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so that's the RFQ portion. It doesn't deal at all with specifics of the campground. What else would we want for the RFQ? So this is just getting people who, we deal with management experience. That's for that. That would be the RFQ. What more do you guys want? Or is that enough? Just very small, simple, 6 points.
I think something that we learned from doing our on-call engineering was that if we didn't ask or maybe even mention something in the RFQ process that we felt it was not fair to hold their feet to the fire in the RFP process. So I think we want to make sure that we don't forget something here.
So you want to review the RFP information and see if it contains everything that we'd want? And then we're back to possibly combining?
No, I don't necessarily want to do that. I just want to make sure that our RFQ has what we're asking. And we haven't forgotten something, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. I think we got a great list.
Okay. What's missing? I will tell you, I just Googled RFQs versus RFPs, and oftentimes they are done together because they're so closely related, but we can certainly do it separate. Yeah, we can just do 6 questions and see what we get back,
Yeah.
and then get into the details with the RFP here after.
Okay. I guess,
So Laura, you mentioned you just Googled RFQs. You gotta be careful with that because RFQ in a lot of cases is a request for quotes. Not
No, this is a request for qualification. Thank you. I did that already last week, and it really threw me. So I knew what you're saying. This one is request for qualifications.
Yeah, so when we use the reference of just RFQ, I think we have to be careful to make sure it's qualifications and not a request for a quote. So.
Request for qualifications is most often used for professional services, specifically legal, engineering. It can be used for anything, but those are the 2 that are called out. So if that's what we've got, I don't think we need 15 pages for those 6 questions.
No.
no.
I think we could easily have very detailed answers in less than 10. We can say 10, but if you guys want to keep it at 15, that's okay. What's the consensus?
I'm good with 10.
I'm good with 10 for the request for qualifications.
Yep.
Okay. So we know from our engineering firms that 21 days is standard. So we will have to put that together, and we can't really move forward on anything because all we're doing is soliciting qualifications. So we would just put off the next stage, put off any kind of a letter to JSJ, and move into updating contract.
Yeah, we can work on that. You bet.
Yep.
Okay.
Go with that.
Okay, I will type that up. Al, I'm going to send you a copy as well, and then we can further review it on Monday and maybe get it on the agenda after to send it out whatever date that would be. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
Okay.
So you guys want to move into the contract then and kind of give it an overview?
I guess my question is, are we going to try to modify our existing contract or just create a complete new one?
I think we should start with what we have, but I think what we need to do before we can do anything else is target specifically what is okay and what needs to be worked on.
Okay.
So I don't think we know how we're going to move forward until we determine how much of this old contract is good or bad or in the middle somewhere.
Okay. I guess maybe that can require some homework on our part to go through that and.
Well, I think we should at least give it an overview together.
Sure.
Because there's some things in here that are elementary that need to be targeted as this is a keeper and this needs to be addressed. So when we do our homework, we're at least on the same page. You guys want to just start with paragraph 1 and work our way through?
Sure, let's just do it.
Okay, so I'm not going to read it because everybody has a copy, but paragraph 1 just has the duration. This is between Broadwater County and whomever the manager would be selected to be.
Okay.
Paragraph number 2 just states that we are a managing partner with Bureau of Reclamation, and the manager does work for Broadwater County, not BOR. Okay, paragraph 3, manager desires to conduct the day-to-day management of the Silos Recreation Area. And I believe there was some suggested language that we can incorporate from Al that clarifies that this is indeed day-to-day operations and not just something where you fly in once in a while and look things over and leave again. And that's something we would get in RFQ too. Okay, so, employment of the manager. Manager shall act as the exclusive agent of the county in respect to the activities described in the agreements pertaining to the SRA and assumed by the county under the management agreement with the United States referenced above. I think that's a good paragraph and it needs to stay. Any thoughts?
I don't have our stuff in front of me, but I think we made some comments. Our group did about being the exclusive agent. That's an awful wide-ranging and powerful use of words that I think you need to if nothing else, you need to reference someplace in the end of the document or something about what an exclusive agent means.
I agree. I think we should have a page of definitions, just like you find in statute. I think the intent of that is that the manager doesn't work with BOR, and BOR won't work with them. So they have to go through the county so the county is aware of what's going on, and I think that's the intent. But I think we could either A, find a much better term, or B, have a page of definitions and that be defined on that page. Yeah, that's it. I see your suggestion there. So we can work on that. Maybe that's some homework we can take home and then bring back.
I think that was tied to one of our I think things that we hit on several times is can you have a contractor that's operating as a county employee? Because what you're really dealing with is somewhere in the county organization, somebody needs to be a person that has the responsibility for managing this contract. And that's where we were really uncomfortable with having a contractor as your exclusive agent. You need to have a staff representative within the county organization that works with this contract. Somebody that knows the contract, is working with the contract and the manager to make sure things are being done right. If you're getting way out there if you list the contractor as your agent. That's something in government management I think you've got to be very careful of. I know in my experience I would never tell a contractor.
And Al, there's a reason people call you brilliant. You know, so many of the problems of the last 8 years could have been avoided if we had had one of our staff as the liaison or supervisor or whatever term you want to use, working with the SRA rather than it being the commission. Because with the dynamics of the commission, the silos became little more than a weapon to be used against one. And then, of course, the collateral damage during a lot of that time ended up being our manager, which is not the way that you treat people, especially local businesses. So I think that is probably, I don't think we'll get any more brilliant advice than that. I think it serves the county very well to have a designated county staff person be the oversight of this contract. And I think we'll have to think about who that would be. What comes to mind for me would be 1, the county planner, 2, county maintenance, 3, county public works. One of those would be a good fit, I think. Who else?
Our group didn't address that. We just collectively said that somewhere in the county organization, at your staff level, somebody needs to have that responsibility to manage that contract. You guys can't do it. You guys are getting so beat up with everything else you've got to do that you just need a staff person that can come to you and say, yes, all the reports are done, all the auditing is done, all this stuff is done, it's all in compliance. You guys can't do that. And that's all we were trying to address. We didn't want to get into your business of trying to say who or where. Maybe you've got somebody that has some contract recreation management expertise or something, or you, I don't know. The closer whoever that has that works with the BOR, the better off you're all going to be. I know that. But I'll leave it at that. That's not to solve that. That was our thing to bring it up.
Okay, so that's probably on our list of homework also. Here's the next one, staffing. During the period of May 15 through September 15 of each contract year, managers shall staff the Silos Rec area with at least one camp host on weekdays and 2 hosts as needed on weekends and holidays at its sole expense. After September 15 of each contract year, manager may staff camp host on an as-needed basis. The function of the host shall be to direct users, collect fees, answer questions, contact emergency services when necessary, and to assist in managing the area. Neither manager nor any employee of manager or its staff shall be considered to be an employee of the county. It's being intended that manager shall be the independent contractor. So I guess the first question is I think the dates come from BOR and our managing contract, so we don't have anything to do with that. Campground hosts, there's been no complaints on that I am aware of. The question would be, do you want to increase that? I don't think you want to decrease from 1. And do you want to make them county employees? My opinion is no. We want this to be an independent contractor who hires their own people. That's my opinion. What do you guys think?
I would agree with that. The one thing that I think that's going to change here is that, in all reality, that facility should be managed 12 months out of the year. We've got people down there that are camping right now. I don't know if they're paying or if they just drive in there and stay for the night or whatever. But I think as the master plan continues to evolve, that the facility, in all reality, should have some type of management or some way to control reservations for the entire year. I think if you look at the master plan and local people trying to organize ice events and ice fishing and stuff like that, there should be some kind of a management deal there. That thing should be year round. The other part of that is that I have the draft from Al's group, and when I read through this thing, the management of this thing is on the county side is going to be substantial. I mean, it's almost a new position. We're taxing Mike Myers, we're taxing Nicole, we're taxing Josh. I don't know that we can't manage that contract without adding some other position in there in order to do everything that we need to have done so that we make sure we're monitoring everything right. That's all I have.
Okay, so the new position, we're not managing this area ourselves. We're hiring a manager. What that manager would do is they would liaise with either the commission, as has been done, or a commissioner, and it would probably be the commissioner in that district, as has been done, or you would have them liaise with a staff person. Now, from experience, I can tell you, it is not hours per day. It's not even hours per week. When you have a good manager, they know what they need to do and they do it. The hours that I've put into the silos working with Sharon, on average, is maybe 2 hours a week. Go down and check on things, chat for a minute, send a couple emails, but sometimes there's a couple hours in a day. Sometimes there's a month and there's no communication because there's just no need. So, no, I think this liaison position doesn't have to be a full-time staffer. It's not even going to cut into one's work by a major degree. It is very minimal. It's a matter of communicating and then sending that on. Number two, all we're talking about is staffing, not management. It is the management of the contractor, but what we're talking about is when the place will be staffed with campground hosts. That's all it's bringing in. And it requires between May 15 through September 15, manager, quote, shall staff the Silos Recreation Area with at least one camp host on weekdays and 2 hosts as needed on weekends and holidays. That's what it's talking about at this point, and then what the role of those hosts are. Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a
Anything else?
The whole different paragraph of discussion that has to occur, and that's what Mike's talking about, and that's that outside of that hosted period, there is no discussion in that BOR contract with you guys, nor yours with SJS, that says when people will pay for use of that facility and how that's going to be dealt with. All it talks about is the hosted period, and you got hosts. What happens outside of that? I can tell you right now that every pay tube down there except for the boat docks has got tape over. So when the host left on the, whatever it was, 20th of September, there hasn't been a dime collected through the pay stations. Now, maybe they all stop at the store and pay. I don't know. I have no idea how that works. But I know that as a person going down there, if I was driving in with my camp trailer, I look at that and say, well, it must be free camping because all the pay tubes are taped shut. And so that's part of your negotiation with the BOR on revising an agreement. That there needs to be discussion about what's the pay season and what's the host season, because they should be different. Because Mike's right. As things evolve out there, and I keep hearing things about ice events and stuff like that, there's going to be day use down there in the wintertime. There's going to be campers down there. I mean, if we had electricity in a loop of sites down there, there'd be people using them right now. But they'd be paying. Anyway.
Yeah, I agree. That is actually covered in number 6. And I don't think we want to jump around too much, but I think Al is right. It needs more specificity for sure. Sharon does charge. However, BOR has advised us not to. We need to clarify that and put it in both contracts. And the thing is we've got Fall Fest. I send a lot of people to the silos for Fall Fest every year. That's October. We should be having something in the contract that states that there will be sites charged throughout the year, which right now is just done, but it's not in the contract. And then we get that 10%. But it also, we should decide, do we want a campground host in the shoulder seasons? I don't think we want somebody living out there, and I don't think it's needed year-round, but maybe it is. And maybe that's something when we get to the RFP process that we can ask them to give us some information on. What is their vision for management of the site in the off-seasons, including ice fishing events? So, you want me to continue?
Yes.
Okay. Number 3, management, maintenance, and repairs. A, mowing of grass. Manager will mow the grass within the SRA on a regular basis in order to maintain the appearance of the area and to reduce fire hazard. I think that's a keeper. What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. B, this one gets to have a little bit of conversation. Picnic tables, fire rings, and outhouses. Manager shall maintain all structures and facilities at the area in reasonable repair, provided, however, that it shall not be obligated to restore or replace any such structure or facilities which may be destroyed by fire or other cause without negligence of manager or its agent, employees, or representatives. Outhouses will be checked daily and cleaned at least twice daily. Manager shall be solely responsible for the cost of materials used for cleaning of all such facilities, as well as the cost of pumping the outhouses as needed. Manager shall check daily and maintain a supply of toilet paper in each restroom as needed at their expense. This has been a real hardship through the years, and it's one that we need to address in the contract with BOR, and this paragraph needs to mirror that. But in the past, Sharon has been advised that she may not buy picnic tables from a source other than BOR at $1,600 a piece. She may not use or find other fire rings, and she may not even repair the lock on a bathroom door without going through BOR, and that was a couple $100. I forget, it was an astronomical amount for a lock. The problem is you've got BOR has, and they've loosened this up in the past couple of years. But what we were advised is that they have standards for their tables, fire rings, and outhouses and locks that we had to adhere to, and because of the government, they were very high priced. Well, we said then to BOR, you need to replace those, and that is what essentially it says here, and they didn't. We were told you'd get a truckload of picnic tables. This was 2 or 3 years ago. We didn't get it at the end of the year. Oh, yeah, we just didn't get that. Fire rings, we finally got them this year. We've been asking for years and told, no, you can't provide your own. So this is an area that we need to work on because it's not manageable. What do you guys think?
So this is something we would address in the BOR contract. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, number 1. And number 2, it has to be addressed in this contract too.
Mm-hmm.
They've loosened things up, but the rules have changed with the personnel we're dealing with at BOR. The dams are awesome. They have been fantastic to work with. That has not always been the case. We have had people that we have not been able to work as nicely or as equitably around, and they've made things very difficult. We have to write this with it in mind that we may not always have the dams. And this was signed when we had Paul Backlund, who was also phenomenal. He absolutely had his heart and soul in the SRA. So that needs to be solidified or corrected in some way. The county is going to have to step in and send emails to BOR that, hey, this is the number of tables we need per our contract, or we're going to have a clause in here that says manager may work with BOR in the county to replace, or manager shall replace. However, that is made to go.
Okay.
So is that homework, or do you guys have any ideas or suggestions or thoughts?
I'd say that's homework for right now.
Yeah, this is Al. I think we addressed that in our comments that you've got to, this is part of that clarification of what maintenance, replacement, long-term maintenance, annual maintenance type stuff is. That has to get laid out in the BOR agreement so that it can be conveyed through you guys with your contractor out there on the ground. Because that's obviously been an an issue and it's not addressed and identified in the BOR agreement. And I've read their concessionaire contracts, and they lay that out in their concession contracts. And I'm just telling you, I think you need to look at their concession contracts and their RFPs to see how some of this is addressed. But they have a list of annual maintenance, long-term maintenance, what's in, what's not in, that kind of stuff. So it's out there. It's findable.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point. Here's the other thing too with that. Those concessionaire contracts, as we talked before, are 20-year contracts. So when a concessionaire comes in and they make a big investment to buy new tables, build new gazebos, what have you, they have 20 years to pay back that investment and realize some revenue from it.
Sure.
When we have a manager and a 5-year contract that may be re-upped on an annual basis, there is not the same incentive for somebody to make that kind of an investment because there is potentially no opportunity to have the loan paid off from revenue or to realize any revenue. So something also for us to think about when it comes to those kinds of things. Okay, so that's homework. We'll come back to that. Litter collection. Cleanliness of our site is very important to the county and environment. Manager will collect litter scattered throughout the SRA and dispose of it in appropriate solid waste containers. Containers will be placed near restrooms and be emptied as needed, but not less than once per week. The manager will arrange for all solid waste to be hauled from the area for disposal at its expense. County agrees to allow the disposal of silos recreation area solid waste at the transfer station at a per ton rate to be agreed upon by manager and the county. Anything there?
No.
No.
All right. D, recycling and waste reduction manager will install and maintain collection bins for collecting aluminum cans. Signs will be erected throughout the silos recreation area to inform users of recycling and litter control. Users will be encouraged to reduce waste and litter in the area. Anything? Okay, right now I don't know that we have aluminum cans collection. If it's going to be in the contract, we should ensure that that's done. And do we want to add to that steel, paper, the same things we use with them?
Well, I mean, we don't really have a recycling program right now anyway, so I don't know.
We do. We just got $40,000 for steel. Do we want to help add to that?
I mean, yes, but I'm talking about the cans and the paper. But
Okay, so that's one to think about in homework.
Go ahead, Al.
All I would suggest is, you're right. I mean, that's in the contract now, and it's a laugh. Because there's nothing out there. There's no signs. There's no receptacle. There's nothing. And so, from the standpoint of looking at the contract, here's what I would say, is that you put a clause in there that says, as the county or local community can support recycling, we will continue that effort out at the recreation area, whether that's a couple bins or a couple things, but that's something that the host has to manage. So your manager has to manage that. But I mean, our group has talked a lot about it. It's like, why in the world is this even in there?
Yeah.
With nothing out there. The other question is, well, okay, put it out there, but then if it's costing you money, I mean, you got to run it through the recycler basically to do that. Maybe that's part of the contract. But if it is, then do it. Don't put it in there and then not do it. That's not where you go with contracts. But that was our input, I think, on that. So,
Yeah.
You're right. Homework.
So it's likely. I like the idea how goes the county, so goes the management area, or we just take it out. Okay, so I'm going to continue.
Yep.
Okay, E, courtesy dock. Manager will ensure that the use of the courtesy dock is consistent with the expectations of Broadwater County and the BOR. Manager is responsible for maintaining courtesy dock in good condition. Major structural repairs to the courtesy dock are the responsibility of the county. Minor maintenance repairs and appropriate signage is the responsibility of the manager. So the first one, manager will ensure that the use of the courtesy dock is consistent with Broadwater County and BOR. It's not owned by BOR, and as such, I think that just should be removed. Manager will ensure the use of the courtesy dock is consistent with the expectations of Broadwater County, period.
I think you have to be careful because there's some stuff in the BOR agreement with the county that talks about how things have to be managed out there. So you can't just cut them off just because it isn't dock. That dock is there because they have approved it being there. And they've approved it being there being based on their perception of what a safe and designed service dock is. Whether you've got that in writing as a letter of approval for those specific things or not, I don't know. But I'm just telling you that you can't just ignore the BOR because it's not their dock. It's there because they approved it at some point in time. And it fits
Actually, I don't think the BOR did, based on memory. They referred us to the Army Corps of Engineers, who also said, we support you moving the docks across the lake, but this will not be our responsibility. So I think that might take some research to make sure about that.
Yep.
But yeah, if we want to, I have no problem with the BOR coming in and doing inspections to help us out with some things. But if they don't have any responsibility, I don't think it should be in the contract that we're giving them responsibility. If you doubt, I can put that into homework and see if I can find any kind of a letter from them giving approval. It very well could be that I've just dropped it out of my memory banks. But I do recall that they took no responsibility and referred us on to the Army Corps of Engineers. We also asked FWP, and they said, no, that's not us. So we are kind of on our own. But let me double check that, just to be sure. Because I think else input is very good. If we do have anybody that has said, we authorize this, then we need to include them here.
And that's, yeah, okay.
Okay, so the next one then.
Well, hold on a minute. I think
Yeah.
this is an area where I think we've had a little bit of controversy. Is what determines major structural repair or minor maintenance? And
Well, that's where we're going to go with the next sentence. So yeah.
Okay.
Manager is responsible for maintaining courtesy dock in good condition. And then your question of, who is responsible? What's the line? In my opinion, that's to be addressed in the RFP. But what do you guys think?
Well, the way you read it, it sounded to me like that anything major happens, it's the county's responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the issue: is that if it's the county's responsibility and the county's not collecting any kind of money, or it's not addressed in the contract with whoever managing that place that has to be fixed, then the county's going to fix it, and it's going to be taxpayer money probably.
Right, and that's what's happening now.
Yes. So you just need to think.
Yeah. So
word that.
Yeah. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that if you have the situation that we are now with this contract, if we get a new contractor in there, everything that's there that's the county should be up to 100%, and then that new concessionaire, anything happens there, short of a hailstorm or a windstorm blows it away, would be the responsibility of the concessionaire. I mean, normally when you take over a business, things are all up to shape to run, or somebody gets paid a stipend to make it that way, and then from there on, that maintenance should be the responsibility of the concessionaire. I think that if you put that on them, they would be much more likely to monitor the situation and make sure things are going good, and still things go terribly bad, and then a post rots over and something blows over. That's on them, because that's their responsibility. I think they would be much more attentive to what's going on with all the facilities.
Yeah, because you can
Two things.
those poles are pushed around with the ice. That's the biggest, probably one of the biggest issues. And then, like we saw this summer, the boat crash out there and the damage that did. Maybe they have insurance and maybe they don't. So who covers it when that happens? Mm-hmm. You just have to address it.
So, Al, since you're here, in my opinion, the docks, of course, we know are county property. The trust board is charged with recreation at the silos. Would there be an option of putting together some kind of a fund with the trust board for emergency repairs to those docks, should it be required because of ice or what have you, and to define what major repairs would be? Not necessarily, what I would suggest is a line. So anything over $750 is a major repair, and that is not due to negligence by the manager. Anything $750 or lower is defined as ongoing maintenance to be paid by the manager. What do you guys think about something like that?
My personal opinion is you're better off to think about what's happened to those docks in the past 15 years that have been down there. What's a maintenance item and what's an incident item. To set $750, frankly, I couldn't tell you what it costs to do certain things on those docks down there. Half of the money the county gets from down there is off of those docks. So there's a lot of receipts comes in. Just me, I would have to sit down and take a look at that kind of number to figure out if it's $750, $1,500, $2,000. I don't know, and I wouldn't have a clue to how to get there without spending some time trying to figure it out.
So you're kind of saying that instead of defining a dollar amount, you would suggest that one define what major maintenance is versus ongoing maintenance, and have a list.
Well, I think, I put it into annual maintenance and then annual repairs. Maintenance and repair is probably the same thing. You put it in the same envelope. But if we get I don't know, I'm trying to think. But say we get a major ice flow and it pushes ice in the springtime up into that bay and it pushes all the docks up there, tore them all apart. That's not something the manager's going to fix. That's something that the county has to look at from the standpoint of how you're going to fix that. Grants, go out and whatever it is. But I would have to sit and think about this for a little bit rather than just put a dollar limit out there.
So maybe we can put that in the homework, but I would suggest that the trust board should be a partner in this.
Oh, yeah, the trust, there's a discussion to be had with the trust board on a lot of this, I think.
What do you mean?
Well, I think the trust board has put a lot of money into this thing, and the docks being one of the big ones. Maintenance of the docks, and whether the trust board, since they put up the money to purchase them to start with, then has a annual maintenance commitment to them, I think that's a discussion. I couldn't tell you how it would go, but I think that's a discussion might be worth having.
Yeah.
I would,
And I would think it wouldn't be, well, I guess, again, it goes to the definition. When you say annual maintenance, I'm thinking ongoing maintenance. But when there is a crash from ice, that's repair maintenance, right? So I think we need to define it, and I think having a discussion with the trust board is a really good idea for those couple of sentences. And perhaps it's a match agreement. Trust board matches what's in the silos fund, and perhaps, we have a separate object code for the docks. So there's a couple of things we could look at with that. So should we chalk that up to homework as well, do some work, maybe meet with the trust board and come back?
Well, I think the fact that there's pay stations out there to cover all the boat facilities, are the docks part of that facility then, or not, or is it just the parking lot and the ramps? That's, to me, that's part of the discussion that probably needs to go on.
this is Mike, I would think that we've got the pay station out there. I don't know where that money's getting deposited to, but you should take the pay station money, your dock rental fees, a percentage of that, and put that so that that's going into a CIP, so that we're building up an account there just in case we have that disaster, even if it's only to cover the deductible from the insurance that we have on them. That way, the statement was made that when we put in the pay stations, that money would go to parking lot maintenance and docks. Well, I think if we need to take that money and separate it out, and it needs to go along with the launch station, along with whatever the percentages that we get for the docks. That money should go into a CIP for the docks, and then we're not always digging into the county funds to pay for all of our maintenance, especially if we have an event. And I agree with Al that the definition of maintenance is pretty broad, and I don't know how you really zero that down. I don't think that you can zero that down to $750, because a lot of the stuff that happens out there it's a pretty good bill, and if you have a catastrophe, it's going to be a huge bill.
Yeah.
So if we have a dollar amount, we need to define what that would be. If we don't have a dollar, even if we do, we still have to define what's major, what's catastrophe, what's ongoing. So, yeah. And as long as that launch fee included docks, then we're okay with that. If it didn't, then we can't use it for docks. So we'll do some homework on that, set up a meeting, and move on.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay? So floating docks. That's F. Manager will ensure the use of the floating docks is consistent with the expectation of Broadwater County and Bureau of Reclamation. Manager is responsible for maintaining floating docks in good condition. County shall have the use of one boat slip for county use. That's been consistent with search and rescue in their boat. Major structural repairs are the responsibility of the county. Minor maintenance repairs and appropriate signage are the responsibility of the manager. So again, we need to define that. Same question. Anything on that before moving on?
No.
Okay, number 4 is the liability insurance, and we talked about that already with the RFP. Number 5, accident reporting. That's pretty boilerplate. I think manager will report to the county verbally and in writing all accidents involving death, serious injury, or property damage, hazardous material spills, or other incidents of serious nature within the SRA, and cooperate in the investigation of any such incident. Manager will further cooperate with county in reporting any such incident to other appropriate agencies as required by federal, state, and local laws, rules, and regulations. I think that's good. You guys have anything to add or subtract?
I don't have anything.
No.
No, I think all
Okay, collection of...
Okay.
I'm sorry, Al?
You got copies of all of our comments on each one of those items.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it will be easy to incorporate those. Next one is the collection of fees. Managers shall collect a fee according to the schedule of fees as followed from each user of their silos recreation area during the period of May 15 through September 15 during the term of the agreement and during any extended time period the county may designate. The county reserves the right to review the fees on an annual basis and revise them at their discretion. On the first day of the month, manager will provide a written report to the county in which it reports all fees collected, the number of users, and the number of group permits issued during the preceding month, and submit a check for 10% of the gross proceeds to Broadwater County. So a couple of things with this. It was stated that there should have been, or there was a desire for JSJ to pay 20% on the new docks. It said docks, but the request of her was just on the new docks. And this is the reason that the county said no. We would have had to go in and change this contract, and there was so much personal animosity flying through that we thought, no, it's not worth it. So that's why it stayed at 10%. There is, and it is what it is. So if we wanted to, in our last discussion about the docks, if we wanted to state that we will collect 20% for all the dock space rentals, and that will go into a object code within the silos fund to pay for dock repairs, major dock repairs, we can do that in this contract. So, I guess starting at the beginning, we've got the same dates we discussed before, and it says, and during any extended time period the county may designate, we know that it's charged now. We can state instead of that the fees will be charged, just take out the dates, and fees will be charged for use of the facility year round. What do you guys think for the first sentence?
Yeah, I agree. I think we need to have some type of a year-round fee management system. I'm not sure what that is, but I think we need to do that.
The recreating at that lake during the winter is sometimes as busy as during the summer. The ice fishing is down there. I don't know how many people are interested in camping, but it seems to me that if we did have somebody interested, they should be paying. They are paying now, but it should be in a contract that they shall pay. And then that way the manager knows as well, yeah, they're within their contract to be charging.
Okay.
Also the docks, some of your boaters use the docks clear into October. This year was a great year in October. If they rent by the weekend or the day, they should be paying past September 15th. We know that they are, but it should be in the contract that is what we expect, and that is okay for the manager to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so county reserves the right to change those fees at our discretion. And then on the first day of the month, manager will provide a report. That is something that we as a commission years ago said, let's just do it once a year. And that mirrored the BOR requirement. But if you guys want to take, and I think this year it was done monthly, that's absolutely something we can leave in there, and the commission can then require that be done. We didn't want to be too onerous. We didn't want to micromanage. Right. So that's just a change that is fluid and it's already in writing. What do you guys think?
I would prefer to see a monthly report, because I think that what that does is that kind of gives us a guideline for the next contract of where things are headed to out there. If we get a yearly report, we don't know what the camp spots are, how much the slip rentals are, and then the other part of that too is that if you do a monthly, and we find out that we have if we get a bunch of electricity put in out there and we got a bunch of people camping out there, then the bill should come out of that. So we should know what that is. And I think that if you're doing monthly, I think that after a period of time, you would have a better way to manage the contract. I just think that a monthly report is more efficient, and it gives us an eye on what we're going to have to do to make any changes we need to, and when we need to make those changes.
My only comment is, and it's similar to Mike's, is it's just a better management tool for us to utilize as we go forward managing this this area. So I like the idea of a monthly report.
Okay, then that stays in. With the cost for camping, monthly report, end of season report, you still have the same costs associated per dock rental, per gazebo rental, per campsite rental. And that is provided to us in a couple of different documents every year. The scope of work put together by the county, the commission, and then also the report given to us by JSJ. So the monthly reporting isn't going to affect the amount charged, because those won't change from month to month. It just gives you something to look at every month instead of for a season. So the 10%, that's something where my vision, and we can discuss this, my vision was to not solidify that yet, but to wait and see what the annual financial suggestion would be in the RFPs returning to us. What do you guys think? Do you want to say, nope, we're going to change it in the contract so that there's a starting place, or do you want to leave it to people responding to the RFP?
Well, I mean, I think we have some some data right now that shows us we're not receiving enough money to pay our bills out there. So we can continue to look at that and do what you're saying, but I guess the bottom line is whatever amount that we settle on, whatever percentages, that the fees have to pay the expenses. But I guess that's the bottom line.
All right, so if you take out the docks, I think it gives us a whole different financial picture. But say it's zero at this point. We want to be able to put some money together for dock repairs, the major stuff, the ice jams. Also, depending on what happens with tables, fire rings, that kind of thing. Do you want to just raise it to 20? Now, a concessionaire, they pay usually in the single digits. Al said 3 to 5. What I've seen is 2 to 3. So we're talking a manager here. Right now it's 10. We could say across the board 20% of the gross proceeds will be paid to Broadwater County Silos Maintenance Fund. What do you think?
I think that's a good place to start. I guess I'd like some more time to look at our financials and see if that covers our expenses, but also we need to consider, and maybe this is a different discussion, though, we still need to determine how we're going to retire that debt that is still out there for the docks, that $15,000. Is that going to be paid out of these funds, or is that going to be paid a different way?
The other thing too that we're going to have to keep in mind is if we take so much money out of the revenue of the SRA, are we going to find a manager? And if we find a manager, are they going to be a quality manager? This has got to be an opportunity for somebody to make a living or subsidize a living. Mm-hmm. So this isn't a volunteer position we're looking to put somebody into. We have to remember that. This is a business. Yep. Businesses are in business to make money.
Well, I think it gets at the core question of whether you're dealing with a manager or concessionaire. Because if you look at the concessionaire contracts that are out there, they basically are responsible for everything out there.
Yeah, for 20 years,
Yeah, that's right.
right? You're not looking at a 5-year concessionaire contract. You're looking at 20 years. Is that the way we want to go?
Well, but you think about it, if the county is not going to be holding the responsibility to do things down there, that the concessionaire has to do it. That's why they got 20 years, because they got to pay for it and recoup it. But
Right.
the county only gets 2 or 3%, but you're not putting county money into anything out there. I mean, if you look at the BOR's agreements, they don't have any responsibility for stuff down there. And if there is, it's a negotiated responsibility with the concessionaire outside of where they currently stand. So the 2 to 3% they get, it's theirs. I'm sure it doesn't cover their administrative costs, but I mean that's the whole point of the difference between the concessionaire and the manager is the concessionaire carries all the risk. That's why they get 20 years. You're talking about a manager trying to figure out how the county's going to split risk with the manager, and you don't know what all that risk is. So, on one hand, if you all decide that the manager is what you want, then you're going to have to look at, I think, your RFPs to assess what that risk level is going to be to the county and what that percentage has got to be. But you got to maybe give them some ranges when you put that RFP out.
Yeah, the other thing that we need to, concessionaire, I think, is going to be a hard one for us to do. Number one is the master plan. You give somebody essentially property control of the SRA. Are they interested in the master plan? They may or may not, and it's up to them entirely. So that's number one. Number two, we have a 10-year agreement with BOR. We can exceed that. Or if we wanted to make our contract with BOR 20 years, I don't know if they'd do that, then we could do a 20-year concessionaire. We're now talking about just till 2023, so I don't even think we can talk about concessionaire yet because we're talking 2 years.
That's right.
So those are some things to think about. One thing we can do in the RFP is state that we have some juggling thoughts about ongoing maintenance versus major maintenance. We also are experiencing not having as much money as we would like in the Silos Fund. What is your suggestion for a financial package? And anybody who's experienced is going to have a plan that they can share with us. Whether they did Forest Service or city parks, whatever. Thoughts?
This is Mike. I wouldn't have an issue with a. I think like Lorelei, you just stated, if we do a 2-year contract right now, that's pretty much the end of our contract with the BOR. And I wouldn't have a problem with a 10-year contract at 10%, but the concessionaire pays all expenses. I mean, they're going to have to take over the power bill because that's what's eating up the money that we get from them is that power bill. That's their responsibility. It should be monitored closer than it is, and maybe we're not charging enough for our places that have power. I think that, like Al said, if you could possibly do a 20-year contract, I think you would probably get a more committed contractor in there. But I think that's kind of out of our scope right now because of our contract with the BOR. And we can't tie, it would be nice if we could tie that concessionaire or tie BOR down to making a commitment to that concessionaire for 20 years, but I don't know that they are empowered to do that, probably take an act of Congress, and that won't happen. And I think that when we bring these people in, that this is a project that they have to understand that the master plan's out there and we want something to happen with the master plan.
Right.
Irregardless of how they do it, I don't want to have spent all this money on these master plans and they sit here and nothing happens. So I think that we need to require some kind of a commitment of construction activity, improvements activity within each year of that contract. That way we get that done, and you know, they're eligible to go to the trust board. They can fund some things that way, but some of that stuff also has to come off of their profit in a period of a 10-year contract. And that's really all I got.
If we want to have that kind of control over administering and implementing the master plan, then the county must have the BOR management agreement, partnership, and a manager is a much better way to go because we can work with the manager rather than just turning over the whole facility to him. So those are things to think about. But that master plan, if we want to see it implemented in a way, if you do a 10-year contract with the master plan out there and you say you're going to do something every year, then you leave it up to them what that something is. It might be something big in years 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be something really small in 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 until they get another contract.
Yep.
So those are a lot. If you want that master plan to be managed, the county is going to have to continue to be involved with, 1, BOR through the management plan, management partnership, and 2, a manager is a better way to go. So we'll wait to hear back from the RFPs then on the percentage and the financial plan. Let me ask you this. What would you think about throwing a well, we can't do a comprehensive financial plan without providing all the information that's in an RFP. So we'd have to just table that.
Okay.
Okay, so next one is the fee structure. We just increased the fees to $10 a day with the idea of, or $12 a day with the idea of updating the contract. So that's what we're doing now. User fees, $10 a day, needs to be changed to 12. We went through all that. And then the group fees also need to be updated to reflect that. Then also it says here, under group fees overnight use, the $10 per night fee is paid at a fee station using the fee envelopes provided and depositing the envelopes in the tube. I think that we should take that out and either have that be paid directly to the manager or the reservation system.
Mm-hmm.
I would agree with that, and I would also try to put some kind of an emphasis on those people on using the reservation system through the BOR. The more that we can get through that, the easier it'll be for everybody involved.
I agree. However, not everybody has internet and not everybody traveling has internet. So if you have somebody who shows up at night, especially since it's been history of the silos that you can just show up on a whim, you got to have some way to accommodate them. And that's why I'm saying reservation system and another option for people to pay who don't have the internet or didn't know that was a requirement.
And I agree with that, but I think that what we want to try to do is, I guess what I'm saying is I would just like people, if you're planning a vacation in February, you can go online and you can book that date. That's what I would like to push, is to have those people make their reservations online out of home, because when you're going on vacation, you got some kind of a plan of where you're going to be. So if they know they're going to be here, then they can reserve a spot, and then that gives us a better accounting deal, and it keeps also those people know they have a spot. I don't have a problem with people paying when they get there. I would just kind of like to advocate for the reservation system.
And we have a spot on the RFP for advertising and PR that we could certainly ensure that when we get that back, that they have advertised that they may make reservations, but Yeah, I think that's something they can definitely bring to us is, what's your advertising package?
Yeah.
Okay,
And I know that the BOR, or a lot of these places that have reservation systems, they only reserve a certain percentage of the campsites.
Yeah.
So it just by doing that, you leave it open so that there's a certain amount of it that can be, as you want, a walk-in type use. I think the other thing is eventually, we need to look at a credit card type kiosk like we have at the boat ramp, whether we move that and make it for the whole thing or what. That'll all depend on design work down the road. But anyway.
I have another thing, the other thing is, the setting of the price of the camp spots. If we end up with a facility along the shoreline or some convenient location that has power, we need to set some kind of an extra price for the use of that power. That way the concessionaire is not eating it and we're not eating it. The one suggestion I had, I believe, when I met with a group with Al's was that they were paying X amount of dollars for a spot and like $35 for 3 days of power. We have to look at what that fee could be.
yeah, and that's down the road. That would take an updating of this contract because we don't have any spaces with power other than the gazebos.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing is, when we look at that power bill, that is not from the campsites. The gazebos, when that power is used at the gazebos, those people are paying for it. The power that you guys are seeing and reacting to is from the docks. It's from the launch area. It's from the parking lot.
Well,
So,
there's campers
So
that
it's not the campsite.
there's campers down there that are tied into those gazebos.
Gazebos.
And
Yeah, and they're paying for that.
as long as they're paying for it, there's no schedule that says what that is or anything in the contract. So that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, so we talked about that before under number 6, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to take out the dates, May 15 to September 15, and we need to have it stated. Right now, Sharon is charging. There's nothing in the contract that says that shall be done. And I think for her protection and for our requirement, that it should be in the contract.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, think about.
But I just,
Think about this, those folks are, those folks are paying for the electricity, but we're only receiving 10% of that back to make that payment.
and that's what I just explained as to why.
Right, yeah,
Well, let me go back to that again. We have no campsites with electricity, so that is not on the campers. The gazebo sites do have electricity. Anytime those are used, they are paying for those sites, so therefore they're paying for that electricity. That is not the issue. The issue is when we put in the parking lot, we paid Townsend Electric to put in lights so that people could see. That's what you're seeing in those electric bills, is the parking lot lights. When the docks came in, there were extra security lights put in so that people could see the docks. That's also what you're seeing. And they run all the time for safety purposes. So in the winter, when those docks are pulled and there's ice all over the place and no boats, those security lights are still on. The launch has the use of those security lights that are in the parking lot. You are paying for the security lights and the safety lights in the parking lot that cover the launch and some down at the dock, but it's mostly that parking lot.
yeah.
I can see them from my house, they're bright.
Yeah, I did have Mike Meyer go out there and do an estimate for us to replace all those lights with LED lighting, which would be a substantially less cost for us. And,
Yeah.
And I can't remember what that is off the top of my head, but that has been done, and that's something that we could consider too to reduce that cost there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of little details to understanding the complexities of the Silos Recreation Area. As long as we understand what an asset it is for our citizens, I think we can make the right decisions. So I think this is really a great exercise to be going through this. So I'm going to continue on. The manager will supply the printed envelopes and collection box and provide a discount to Golden Age. I think that's fine, and that cost should go down with the reservation system and hopefully in the future a credit card kiosk.
Yep.
Group use. I don't know that we need to even go into that. Those are booked. The gazebos are booked for the summer on February 1st, and those are paid for at that time. It is a first come first serve, but she does reserve the gazebos for special events like the Walleye Festival. That's another thing that I want to bring up, and this is a little off the topic, but the Walleye Festival, that's a huge economic driver for Broadwater County. It's a huge moneymaker for the Chamber of Commerce, especially when Doug Brecker was running it. I mean, that thing it's perceived to be the #1 walleye festival in the state. Some said the region. So it's quite a magnificent opportunity we have. Because of our status as a managing partner with BOR, we were able to get special permits, special abilities for the weeks on either side, and including the Walleye Festival, because of how many people were coming out and what an economic driver it was, and our partnership. So that's something to remember. We have a lot of festivals. That one just happened to be huge, but it was our partnership with BOR that allowed that to be as great as it was. Any questions on group use permits?
Nope.
How that works? Okay, that's our reservation system. Non-discrimination, I'm not going to go into that. Nobody should be discriminating for any reason, ever, period. Number 9, term of this agreement. This agreement shall be for the term of 1 year, and shall automatically renew itself from year to year, therefore, or thereafter, unless either party notifies the other within 90 days. I think we've already talked about this. Do we need to do any more? All right. I'm going to continue then. Number 10, compensation to manager and shared expenses. This is where we're going to have to do some homework and talking. A, manager shall pay to county 10% of the gross proceeds of campsite, marina, and group area rentals. This shall be remitted monthly to Broadwater County, our address, together with a written report of all fees collected, the number of users, and the number of group permits issued during the preceding month. So we will be maintaining the monthly requirements and wait to hear back from the RFP on what the percent will be. Right?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. B, manager shall pay for the services of a campground host. The host shall be on site May 15 to September 15 of each year. And that's covered already in the contract. We already went through that. Are you guys good with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. C, manager shall pay for garbage service, toilet paper, and outhouse cleaning and supplies. I think that's a keeper.
Yes.
Okay. D, manager and county understand that BOR will provide sheriff reserve services, weed spraying, and water testing. This one needs some work. Number 1, BOR will provide sheriff reserve services. We don't have a sheriff reserve system anymore. So I think it should just be sheriff or law enforcement services. They do have a contract. They pay approximately $85,000 a year for that service. Number 2, weed spraying. I don't believe BOR has been doing any weed spraying. I do know that Terry does that for Sharon right now, for JSJ. do we want to pull that out of a BOR requirement and make it our own? And water testing, we do that, we pay for that. It is a public health requirement, which is one of the tenets of county commissioners' responsibilities: county health, county safety, and county finances, welfare. So what do you guys think?
I would like to see the weed control, that falls on the concessionaire.
Manager, we don't have a concessionaire, but okay, you want that to flow with like grass mowing?
Well, grass mowing, and they need to do weed eating and weed spraying. That place is pretty infested with knapweed right now.
And that's on BOR
I'm not aware of
right now. Want to make sure that's out there. And the only question with that would be if BOR doesn't allow for any spraying. So we'd have to run that by them and marry that with our contract with them.
Okay.
So that'll take a little bit of homework. But I agree with you. I think it'd be much better to have it done by the manager. And that is in the RFP, listed as being a responsibility of the manager. Water testing. Do we want to give that back to BOR, or do we want to continue doing it as it is a requirement of ours by law?
What is the, I guess it would be whatever is convenient for the concessionaire on that.
The manager doesn't pay for it currently. It's paid by the Silos Fund. Mm-hmm. They do take the water samples. It's very automatic. We don't even have to touch that. So you're saying maybe status quo for that?
Yes.
All right. And then we'll just change it to sheriff's services. How's that versus law enforcement? Or do you guys want law enforcement? It doesn't matter.
No, just law, sheriff's department, public safety.
Okay.
Well, no, I mean, I guess I like the wording law enforcement. I mean, it kind of encompasses all the things that need to happen out there.
The thing with law enforcement, years ago, before there was a relationship with the Sheriff's Department and BLR, and during the mussel shell incident, or mussels incident, FWP has law enforcement out there.
Right.
Highway Patrol has been out there. So maybe law enforcement is better just to encompass all law enforcement.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cover all those agencies, yep.
Okay. All right, so E, manager shall pay for propane for the camp host. I think that's a no-brainer. Do you disagree?
Nope.
Nope.
All right, in the incident, okay, I'm not going to go too far into this. This is legal realm, but that would be in the incident that the manager is not doing what they should be, not paying as they should, then there's ramifications. Do you guys want to get into that right now, or I would think that would be something we'd hand to the county attorney and let them look at the language now and what changes need to be there.
Yep.
Okay. Number 11, government regulations. Managers shall perform in compliance with all applicable laws and comply with BOR concession management policy. Oh, yeah, we have to take that out. We obviously got this from BOR years ago. So just a little bit of tweaking, but I think that's boilerplate too. Disagree? All right, so the next is miscellaneous. 2 or A is I think just a no-brainer. Agreement is binding upon the time and then attorney fees, that will be something that Corey will want to change because it says here that one side could get their attorney fees paid, and I know he likes to change that.
Yep.
C, modifications. No modification of this agreement will be valid or binding unless reduced to writing and executed by all parties hereto. So that's something that we need to be better at making sure that, like the $12 per night, that's added to the contract immediately.
Hey, can I stop for just?
Yeah,
I'm
please.
sorry. I was just thinking of something back on number 11 where it says comply with rules and regulations for the Bureau of Reclamation concession management policy. I guess we don't want to do something that's outside of the BOR policy. How do we do that?
We just need to we absolutely want to keep that. We just need to remove the word concessionaire.
Okay, I got you.
Concession management. Because I believe that we do sign something very similar to their concession management policy.
Right.
And they do sometimes offhandedly refer to the county as their concessionaire. And we do attend the concessionaire meeting every year, not JSJ, Broadwater County attends that. So technically, we are the concessionaire. However, we don't have a property right to the silos because everything has to go to BOR. So we're actually technically a managing partner. So that was the only thing I was referring it to, is we just want to make sure that that states managing partner policies.
Okay.
Yeah, so you're right. We want to keep the BOR regulations because they are the king dog here.
Okay.
Which is, I think, one of the reasons people want us out, is they don't like the fact that we do have a king dog and it's federal government. Okay, so D, I think that's the same. And this, I don't think we need to go into anything more there. E, and disagree if you want. E, time is of the essence. Assignment F. So neither party shall assign this agreement in whole or in part without the express written consent of the other party, which consent shall not be reasonably withheld. Further documentation, agree to execute all formal further documents, sign any necessary papers, and to fully cooperate with, we do that now with all the different work plans, scope of work, the reports. I think we do a pretty good job with that. So that's it. We have a little bit of homework. Anything more from anybody? Any cautionaries, or let's add this or subtract this?
I guess not right now from you. I think maybe as we get into this and do a little bit more of our homework, we'll probably have some questions of each other. We can just kind of communicate them, I guess.
All right. I will type up what we have that we went through with Great West, just for an RFQ, and we can discuss that further on Monday.
Okay.
And yeah.
So, this is Al. Can I just make a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Al.
So, you guys have referred all this reference to Al's comments and stuff. I just want to make it perfectly clear that the comments and all the critique you guys have received is from the Citizens Action Group for the Silos Recreation Area, which is a group of interested citizens involved in what goes on out there. That's not just Al.
Thanks for that clarification, Al.
We don't want to blame you.
Al, I appreciate that. That's, you're right. Because you're on the phone, it's easy to say Al's. But it does say at the very beginning it's from the citizens group. So I apologize for shorthanding that too much.
No, I just wanted to make it clear on the record.
I appreciate that. Thank you. What I would like to do is continue these meetings on a weekly basis until we get some things ironed out. We'll have a break next week, but my opinion is there's no reason to put it off, but maybe there is. What do you guys think?
Yeah, no, I think we need to continue refining this and moving forward with it.
Yeah, I have no problem with doing that.
All right, well, I don't have anything more unless you guys have any questions about the silos, how it works, history, anything you want to know?
I guess right now I don't, but I'm sure that something will come up that you can fill us in on.
And I won't necessarily know what to fill you in on unless there's a specific question. So if you have any questions too, on the other hand, just let me know so that I can share, whatever it is that you need or you want.
Okay.
How many
Thank
have
you.
watched?
Thank you for all your input, Laura. Thank you, Al, for spending your time with us. We appreciate that.
Yep, thank you, Al.
Al, I agree. What you guys, your group, the Citizens Action Committee put together is dynamite, and we will ensure that it is reviewed through these meetings so we can incorporate into the contracts.
That's all we ask. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Al. I'm going to hang you up, okay?
Okay, thanks so much, guys.
Have a great day. All right, is there anything else?
I don't have anything.
You have anything else, Laura?
No, I think we've covered a lot of ground today. I think we've got a lot of work done. I think there's a lot of work to be done.
Yep.
But that's not a bad thing.
Okay, very good.
All right, thank you.
Thanks. I guess we're adjourned at